What's going on, everyone? Good morning and welcome to the Pizza Buffet, live here on the Forward Progress YouTube channel, part of the Hammer Betting Network, and powered by Pinnacle Sportsbook. I am Rob Pizzola. I'm here with you for the next hour, breaking down today's NFL sides and totals, just like usual, rotation number, top to bottom. For all my American followers out there, hope you had a great Thanksgiving, got some well-needed time off, spent it with the family. Hope it was enjoyable. Hope you had some winning bets on Thursday and Friday, but I'm not going to look in the past. I'm looking into the future, which is today, week 12, Sunday in the NFL. Now, for those who are new here, you're going to get this spiel that the same crew gets every single week. I don't have an edge at this time. It's very likely that you don't have an edge at this time either. I do very well betting the NFL. In fact, this week, the games haven't started yet, but I'll pat myself on the back for getting some really good numbers this week. I'm in a good spot going into today's games, but that's because I do bet earlier on in the week. Limits are very high right now. Very high. Ask yourself, why are sportsbooks willing to take big bets on NFL? Because they're very confident in their number at this point. So, of course, play responsibly, but understand that if you're going to tail these plays, I do make my own numbers. They are the bets that I would make, but I expect to be coin flipping in the long run. So I just want to make that explicitly clear to everyone out there. On top of that, last week, you may remember there being 0 plays. It's tough later on in the year. We have a lot of data to work with now. We have generally a good idea of what these teams are at this point in the season. There's still injuries and some other stuff that causes some chaos in getting to different numbers. I won't have 0 plays today, but looking at the board right now as it stands, it's probably going to be somewhere in the range of 3 to 4, and they will almost exclusively be totals for today's board. But I will talk through the entirety of the board and the entirety of the games, no matter what. If you can, smash that like button down below. Helps people find the content in real time. And of course, there's also the share button on YouTube. Click that share button. Get it out to your social feeds. Help me grow this on Sunday mornings. There's a lot of people out there right now that are doing Sunday morning content. They're telling you they have a bet on every single game. Lock of the week, this, 100-star play of the century. I'm here to keep it real with you. The more people keep it real, the better we're all going to fare in the long run. So if you can, share this content, let people find it. I do what I can to try to help make people bettors. As a general reminder, I will always preach line shopping here on Forward Progress. It is one of your most critical aspects to betting. If you're going to bet on a Sunday morning and you're going to open up one sports book, you're cooked. That's just the way it's going to be. I would never consider betting without Pinnacle being one of my sportsbook accounts because of their everyday competitive odds. I'll bring them up on screen over the course of the show, but you'll often see that Pinnacle has the best price in market. So bet smart, bet Pinnacle, your trusted sportsbook for the past 25 years. And please use code HAMMER when signing up, as it does help support the show. You must be 19 plus, available in Ontario, not available in the US. And as always, please play responsibly. All right, enough of the preamble. Let's get into it. Good morning to all my fellow nails in the chat. I see your comments in real time. I'll get to as many as I can over the course of the show. If you do want to get involved in the chat, make sure you're subbed here on Forward Progress. Get in with the rest of the nails. They're part of the chat. And I'll take questions at some point or another. But let's get right into it. Bringing in betstamp here. As always, easy way to improve as a sports bettor. Use multiple sports books. Like I said, get the best odds. Use Pinnacle. I recommend using an odds comparison tool like Betstamp. You can compare odds across every sports book for games, futures, player props. Save time and money. Check Betstamp before you bet. Download the app today. All right. Started off at the top here. Give it a quick refresh. Seen some line movement happening over the course of the day, as is going to happen here. And let's kick it off with the Jags and the Texans. And this is one of the games that I'm going to lock in a bet for. So really quickly, my number on this game is Jacksonville -1 with a total of 49. Not a massive edge here on the over, but at 47.5, I do have a 1.7% edge. I'm going to lock that in for $70 on the over in the Jacksonville-Houston game. Right there. Again, shop around. There's 47.5s out there. As you can see, there's some 48s, but I think this is a good enough number to play in this specific game. So, injury front, again, in the chat, if you can, help me out today. I don't have my phone. I have some questionable players I'm looking for. If you see anything that might change the handicap of a game, throw it in the chat. I'll let you know what I think about it. But for this game, still waiting on the status of Zay Jones for the Jags. He had a limited practice on Friday with a knee injury. He is expected to play. I'm hoping he does play for the sake of this total because I think he does help open up the offense a little bit more. Your starting corner, Tyson Campbell, is out for the Jags with a hamstring injury. Houston's injury report, a little bit more troublesome as it has been all season, but nothing new to report for this week. That's going to be a game changer. Now, the Jags last week, I know it's just the Titans defense, but their offense looked a lot more explosive. Trevor Lawrence had 9.5 air yards per attempt last week against Tennessee. That was his largest number of the year. He was much more likely to take off. Looked like the knee wasn't an issue. They had some designed runs for him. He scrambled for first downs. It was a much better looking offense. The thing about the Titans, pass funnel defense, can't really run on them. The Jags said, we're going to throw, and they did it successfully. You can throw on the Houston Texans defense. That can be done. I expect a pass-heavy game plan from the Jags offense. There have been times where it struggled this year, but remember, Zay Jones out for a while. You look at some of the quality of defenses that they faced. They faced the Chiefs. They faced the 49ers, Steelers, Saints, Buffalo early in the year before they got, that was the London game. London, I believe, not Frankfurt, before the defense got dismantled. So I like the matchup. I at least like the propensity for Jacksonville to throw the ball in this game. Houston, on the other hand, CJ Stroud, you look at his splits versus any type of defense, he's good versus anything. I would call him right now a matchup-proof quarterback. Top 3 in EPA per play from clean pockets. You look at the Jacksonville D, 27th in pressure rate this year, 29th in pass rush win grade. Stroud, great against man, great against zone. Jags play a lot of cover 3. Stroud has a 0.25 EPA per play against cover 3. Yes, he threw 3 interceptions last week. He still completed 73% of his passes. He still had a 0.14 EPA per dropback despite 3 interceptions. That is very, very challenging to do. To be a net positive for your team by a lot when you throw 3 picks. I like the possibility and the likelihood of teams scoring points in this game. The 37-17 first game of the year, a little bit misleading, yet a special teams touchdown. Jacksonville's offense couldn't really get it going in that game. But I like the matchup for both offenses here. Like I said, total 49 for me. I thought it's a bit low. So we go ahead and play a small play on that one. Keeping it moving. Tampa Bay and Indianapolis. Market is at Colts juice 2.5. Total's been bet up from early in the week. I remember talking to Clive on Forward Progress last week, 8 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday, which you can catch again here tonight. Total in this game opened up like 42.5. We were talking about the defensive injuries for the Bucs, how there would definitely be some over money. There was. Now, my number in this game is Indy -2.5, total of 45. Not quite enough to play anything on this one with where the current market stands right now. Tampa Bay, they are dealing with a number of injuries on defense. Jamel Dean is out. Carlton Davis is expected to play, but he's dealing with a hip injury. Linebacking core could be in shambles. Levante David out with a groin injury. Devin White went DNP, limited practice, dealing with a foot injury. It doesn't help that Logan Hall didn't practice on Friday with an illness. So beat up defense. Indy's also dealing with a couple injuries of their own. Their center, Ryan Kelly's out again. He suffered his second concussion of the season a couple weeks ago. Juju Brents, starting corner for them, remains out with a quad injury as well. Factor all that in, I get to -2.5, 45. The Colts, I like, their offense struggled a little bit before the bye. They just haven't looked the same in recent weeks. New England defense, Carolina defense, you can kind of give them a pass. I mean, the Carolina defense has been a lot better as of late. Patriots defense, I don't know, but it was a challenge. They get Josh Downs healthier, big play wide receiver coming off a bye, should help stretch the field a little bit more. Thing with the Bucs defense is everyone knows they can stop the run, so teams are throwing on them pretty regularly. And that will probably work today when you consider the amount of injuries that they're facing, especially with Jamel Dean not being there. So this is the opportunity for the Indianapolis Colts offense to get back on track. There's a few things I don't like about the matchup, but again, I do think some of the injuries offset it. Particularly, Minshew's been bottom 5 against the blitz this season. Tampa Bay has been known to send it, especially against quarterbacks who struggle against the blitz. Todd Bowles pretty good at devising some game plans, but ultimately, at some point, I think you need the personnel. On the other side of things, kind of with the lean towards the over, Baker Mayfield's been pretty solid. I mean, you look back at last week and you see 27-14 against the 49ers. It's just like 14 points. They had a 50% success rate in that game. They moved the ball quite well. That was the second highest success rate any team has had against the 49ers this season. I don't like the Colts defense. I don't like their secondary with Brent's out as well. There's opportunity here. And like, what's the likelihood that the Colts defense is at the absolute top right now? Look at what they've played the last 4 games. They played Patriots offense, Panthers offense, Saints offense, Browns offense, and that Browns game was PJ Walker. So strong lean towards the over in this game. I do think, though, it's been bet up enough to no longer warrant a play. Should it drop to 44, consider that as an option as well. All right. I'm going to keep it moving here as I bring up the odds for the Patriots and Giants up on screen. All right. So market is out to 4.5. Across the board, pretty much. Total all over the place. Pinnacle's 36, juice towards the under. You see some 35s on the board, some 34.5s, juice towards the over. So a little bit of a gap here on the total. My number in this game, with all I know now, and I'll get into that in 1 second, because the Patriots, they find a way to always make you question everything on a weekly basis. I make New England a 4-point favorite. I make the total 35.5 in this game. For those of you who watch the midweek content, you will know that I made the Patriots -3 my best bet for the week. Reality is I actually did want to make the Steelers my best bet, but right before coming on air, Steelers line moved from like a pick 'em to -2. I said, can't do that. So it was the Patriots. This is a fair question by Murray. How can a 2-7 team with Mac Jones starting be a 4.5-point road favorite? I'm at 4 with my number. The answer that I've come up with after digging deep into it is that the Giants are terrible. They were valued last week against the Commanders. Now, a game that they won, but they were valued last week as a historically bad team. You do not see market ratings like what we saw with the New York Giants last week. Basically 10 points worse than a league average team in that range. You just don't see that nowadays. Now, I agree. This has gone too far, in my opinion. Am I willing to play back on the Giants if I hadn't had a bet on New England? No. I mean, this is like you're not overcoming the vig from when you make the game 4 and the spread is 4.5. But I agree it's gone a little bit too far. So depending on your pool play, 4.5, I would take the Giants. If it was the early week number and you're getting 3.5, I'd take New England. I mentioned the uncertainty with New England, but typical Patriots injury report. Belichick been gaming the system for years. You got a bunch of key contributors that had 3 times limited practices this week, all listed as questionable. Left tackle Trent Brown, wide receiver Devontae Parker, Dietrich Wise on the defensive line, Jawan Bentley, linebacking core, Jonathan Jones, cornerback. 5 starters, 3 times limited practice, questionable. Remember, coming out of a bye week here, the likelihood they're going to get some of these guys back, in my opinion, is very high. But we won't know, and we don't know as of right now. We do know that Mac Jones is going to start, which in my opinion, I know people want to shit on Mac Jones, and it's fair. It's fine. I don't think he's very good. I think he would be better with a good O-line and some weapons, but I don't think he's very good. But I do think he's the best option for New England today. They put Will Grier on waivers. Zappy, we've seen enough of him. I mean, he's just a marginal downgrade, but I still think Mac Jones is the best option when you're making a number on a game, ultimately. But the Giants, Darius Slayton, doubtful to play. He got the neck injury last week. He's their number 1 receiver. Dexter Lawrence kind of flew under the radar this week. Their nose tackle, dealing with a hamstring injury. He was listed as doubtful. Secondary's looking healthier, but ultimately, I don't really like the Giants' offense at all. We can talk as much as we want about New England. The Giants had a +6 turnover margin last week. +6. And the game, Washington still had the ball with a chance to drive the field to win the game. Ultimately resulted in a defensive touchdown, but you generate 6 more turnovers at that time in the game. I guess it was 5. And you can't put a team away. That's a real challenge. The thing about watching that game after the fact, Tommy DeVito takes 1 million sacks. He was taking sacks from a Washington defense that wasn't even getting great pressure. He just holds the ball way too long. The Giants O-line, outside of Andrew Thomas, is pretty bad. They can't run the ball. Basically, DeVito did well when the play broke down. But that was against a really bad Washington defense that literally just fired their defensive coordinator this week. The likelihood the Patriots have a better game plan than Jack Del Rio is very high. So that's kind of where I stand on this game. I get it. I get all the reasons why someone would want to just fade New England needing to win by margin. But I actually think the Giants are just terrible. Terrible team. So that's where I am here. Carolina, Tennessee, very similar type of game. Very similar type of game. Market here, Tennessee -3.5 +100. So a little bit of Carolina money, getting closer towards the 3. Total 36 at Pinnacle, some 35.5s out there. Not a game that I have a ton of interest in. My market number for this game is Tennessee. I'll call it between 3.25 and 3.5. And a total of 36.5 is where I stand on this game. Nothing that's worthy of being played. Carolina secondary still dealing with issues. J.C. Horn not going to be back this week. C.J. Henderson has a concussion. Jeremy Chin out again as well. You have to watch the status of Frankie Louvu. It's questionable, but I think he's going to play through his shoulder injury, so don't worry about that. Tennessee with some key injuries as well. The right tackle, Chris Hubbard, is out. Already a bad offensive line. injuries at tackle, never great. Treylon Burks misses again with the concussion, and there's just not, like, there's no depth here for Tennessee at receiver. There's none. DeAndre Hopkins is struggling to gain separation. Nick Westbrook-Akine, Chris Moore, Kyle Phillips. Like, yes, Levis has been bad. Ooh. Sorry to interrupt. Slayton in. This is actually, this would slightly affect my number a little bit in the game. Slightly. Very, very small. But that's a surprise. That's a surprise. I'll continue with Carolina, Tennessee here. And I don't want to spend too much time on it. I would understand the appeal with just betting the Panthers and saying, can the Titans win by margin? But the Panthers' offense is so, so bad. They've created an explosive play on 6% of their snaps this season. 6%. They have nothing in the run game, in the pass game. It doesn't matter. They have the third lowest rate of explosive plays through 10 games by any offense this century. It's abysmal. Now, the Titans can be had in the passing game. They have been all year. But we have this matchup for Carolina every week. And it never amounts to anything. Forget about Dallas last week. That's not a matchup they're going to win. But prior to that, okay, the Bears defense, you could say they're improved. Prior to that, Indy, week 9, Houston, week 8, coming out of the bye, they can't throw the ball. They can't. Will Levis is getting worse. Every game he's played, I think he's gotten worse. O-line injuries, Chris Hubbard, like I mentioned, lack of depth at receiver. I don't think this is the matchup where it's suddenly going to come together for him. Carolina plays a lot of cover 3. Levis has struggled against cover 3 in his early career. It's just a bad game. I've never come close to having anything in this game. And I've probably wasted enough of your time talking about it as much as I've talked about it so far. Titans or Patriots in Survivor? I prefer the Patriots, personally. Brutal game. I mean, that's probably the best way to say it. This game sucks. As do a lot of them today. But guess what, people? We can bet them. There's over 400 of you watching this live right now. There's only 100 likes on the stream. Do me a quick favor. 3/4 of you, just smash that like button down below. It takes 2 seconds. It goes a long way for us, helping us grow this channel. People find the stuff in real time. YouTube says, oh, a lot of people are liking this. I'm going to serve it up to some other people. So do me one quick favor. Smash that like button down below if you haven't already. All right, keeping it moving. Steelers and Bengals. Steelers out to 2.5-point favorites. Stream of Steelers money this week. Pinnacle holding at 37 right now. For the total, most of the recreational shops in the 36.5 range on this one. My numbers in the game. Pittsburgh -2, total of 36. Which means there's nothing really to do here. I'm not going to be like the I told you so guy. Like, this is just a good learning experience, I would say, for people out there. But bet earlier in the week, like, people are like, the numbers move, right? You can get some good lines. Unless you're betting Cincy, which you just wait till last minute. That's fine. But experience here. Pittsburgh, still without Minkah Fitzpatrick. Probably going to get him back next week. Cincy, though, obviously, Joe Burrow, wrist, out for the season. Jake Browning starting at quarterback. 27-year-old undrafted free agent out of Washington. T. Higgins, out. Cam Taylor-Britt, out. Big secondary blows to this team. Now, ordinarily, and maybe you can make the argument here based off of the way the market has moved, but ordinarily, quarterbacks tend to be undervalued in their first starts. We have like a pretty decent history now of if you were to just blindly play these quarterbacks, backup quarterbacks like Jake Browning in their first game, you tend to have done pretty well, especially in the last several years. But the issue I have with Cincinnati is that I don't like their team at all. There's an argument to be made. Pittsburgh was in the same spot last week. The DTR on the road, they lose the game 13-10. What's different? The difference is that the Browns have a defense. I don't like Cincinnati's defense. I haven't for a long time. Yes, they have some strong defensive players, but they don't have what the Browns have. Consistently putting pressure on a down-to-down basis. They have a good defensive coordinator that gets the most out of limited personnel. Lou Anarumo is great. But top to bottom, this isn't the Browns defense from a week ago. The likelihood that the Steelers offense can move the ball is higher. Now they fire Matt Canada. Canada's been there 3 years. Steelers ranked 28th in points per drive via True Media, 30th in percentage of drives ending in a touchdown. It can't get worse. It can't get worse. And in fact, they have a running game at the very least that travels well. How did they score last week against the Browns? Jalen Warren broke a run. There's been this emergence of a running game for Pittsburgh in recent weeks. A lot of it's coincided with very good play out of their right tackle, Broderick Jones. But ultimately, there's a case to be made here that Pittsburgh has the better offense and defense in this game. You put in home field advantage, obviously. And the move makes sense to me. Have we possibly gone too far now? Yeah. Okay. Good comment here. I'd have to downgrade Cincy 10 points to get to this number. It's very possible that this is the downgrade. I know it sounds insane. You go from elite quarterback who's been able to find success behind this O-line for years to an undrafted 27-year-old rookie who has some stuff on tape from last week as well. It's very possible. How many points is Matt Canada's firing worth? We'll find out today. High range of outcomes in this game, without a doubt. Again, I said my number was Pittsburgh -2. That would show value on Cincy at the current number. My confidence rating in this is extremely low, but I don't like the comparisons to last week's game with the Browns, because that's a completely different breed and animal on the defensive side of the ball. All right. We'll keep it going. MP, what was your best Black Friday purchase, Rob? Nothing substantial. Some years I like to get a new guitar. I like to do some stuff. Maybe too much information here, but I purchased a bunch of new undies. Very important to purchase the new undies pretty regularly. Some of the old ones are disintegrating, falling apart. Keep it moving here. Saints and Falcons. Pinnacle, best price in market on the Saints here, -1, -114. Some other books have moved all the way out to 2.5. Not a substantial move, but something there. And the total in the game, 41.5 to 42, depending on where you're seeing it this morning. I make New Orleans a 1-point favorite. I make the total in the game 41.5. So another game here where we're probably not going to do much. And honestly, I never really considered this game for the majority of the week because it's kind of just hung out in this range. It was a pick 'em for a bit. I'm in like New Orleans -1 territory. Do I want to bet it? It just feels like a good number, honestly, in the game. Can make interesting cases for both sides. The Saints, Michael Thomas goes to IR with the knee injury. A bit of a blow, but like Michael Thomas is not the same receiver anymore. You get Rashid Shaheed moving up into a secondary role, which I like a lot. It's just that you have, less depth. Lynn Bowden, A.T. Perry, Keith Kirkwood. These are not household names for the Saints. So that can have an impact. I'm sure New Orleans, Dennis Allen will get very flaccid with the offense, run the ball. Classic Saints stuff. Atlanta, another fairly clean injury report. Grady Jarrett's on IR. We know that. Matt Collins is out with an ankle injury as well. Big news for Atlanta, though, is that Desmond Ridder is starting again. I would be interested in seeing if Taylor Heineke is active because he's on the injury report dealing with the hamstring injury. But I'd like to see. So Murray asks, who's the quarterback for Atlanta? It's Desmond Ridder. Ridder has turned the ball over on 4% of his line of scrimmage plays this season. So that's pass attempts, rushes, whatever. The highest share of any current starting quarterback. He's got to dial that in at some point or another. We've seen him make some plays, but the turnovers have been a constant issue for him. Maybe with Marshawn Lattimore out for the Saints, you get less of an aggressive defensive game plan. Saints do play a lot of man, and Lattimore's a very good man cover corner. So do they dial it back? Possibly. Ritter's EPA per play against man is 0.07. It's better than zone. Still well below average, though, overall. Ultimately, though, kind of just feels like New Orleans is slightly better than Atlanta overall. Home field for Atlanta. I get the line. Makes sense. I don't want to say you can't bet Atlanta with Ridder, but you got to give me more points. Just really got to quickly check something here to make sure. Because I'm seeing someone in the chat say Ridder is out. I've not seen Ridder out. Cannot find Ridder out anywhere. Ridder is in. Third string quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons is Logan Woodside. Played for Toledo back in the day. This is like when I was watching more college football. All right. Atlanta's a teaser leg. Totally fine with that, honestly. It does feel like one of these two teams is winning by a field goal. Keep it moving here. That it for the early slate today? There's not many early slate games today. That's, that makes sense. We had 4 early games this week, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What Octobox are we going to see on Red Zone today? 6 points, 6 boxes of games. Scott Hansen and the production room. That's going to be the Octobox. All right. Rams and Cardinals. It has been a flood of action towards the LA Rams. Hit -3 plus 104 at Pinnacle. Most of the recreational shops, -2.5, -120. Total's been bet up. It's in the 45 to 45.5 range. My number in the game, LA Rams -3, total of 46. Technically, there's some value here on the over. It would be a very, very small bet. Your own discretion as to whether or not you want to do it, but it would be a pretty small bet in this game. Now, someone might ask, how the hell you get into the Rams -3 in this game? And honestly, I asked myself the same thing until we just look at the injury reports. Rams get a clean bill of health. They're missing Quentin Lake at safety. That's it. The Rams you're getting today is basically the Rams at full strength. Arizona, on the other hand, in the receiving core, Michael Wilson remains out. Marquise Brown, went back-to-back, did not practice Thursday, Friday with a heel injury. That's not good. Even if he plays today, you know he's badly beat up because you don't go DNP Thursday, Friday with injuries. That would leave Rondale Moore, Zach Pascal, if Pascal plays, which I think he will, but he's also questionable, and Greg Dortch as your top three. Brutal on the receiving core. Brutal. There's injuries in the front seven for Arizona's defense. Now, the players I'm going to name are not household names, but Arizona went into the year with such little depth in some of these positions that they all add up. Leki Fotu on the defensive line goes to IR. Kevin Strong is out with a knee injury. Jonathan Ledbetter is nursing a shoulder injury. He went 3 times limited practice this week. Their middle linebacker, Kaiser White, goes to IR with a bad elbow. This team is very thin in the front seven. You have one of your corners, Antonio Hamilton, out on the back end as well. I don't think I'm high on the Rams, generally speaking. But there's just a lot going on in this year, which tilts it towards the Rams' favor. I think this is a fair price. Some people might disagree and think, Kyler's back. He can overcome a lot of these. But the Cardinals got very lucky last week. I watched Arizona, Houston in full this week. They should have been blown out in that game. Now, that's CJ Stroud. It's very different. But multiple INTs in the red zone. The Cardinals' defense is in very much like this bend but don't break mode. LA will probably work down the field pretty quickly. Kieran Williams back in the backfield. There's a lot going on here. Arizona's styles on defense. Zone-heavy team. 76% zone. Stafford, EPA per play against zone this year, 4th in the NFL. Specifically, what does Arizona play a ton of? Cover 3 and cover 4. Stafford, very good numbers against both. I like the opportunity for the Rams to move the ball a lot in this game. I don't like the opportunity for the Cardinals to do so with the injuries in the receiving core. That's why my number is where it is. That's why the market's moved out that way if you're having trouble processing how this can possibly happen. Next game. Broncos and Browns. Broncos laying 1 at Penny, 1.5 everywhere else. One of the best money lines in market is going to be your Pinnacle number on, honestly, both sides. Definitely Cleveland at plus 108 money line. Total 37. And my number in the game is Denver minus 1.5. Total of 36.5. At this plus money, 37, or at any of these 37.5s on the board, I'm comfortable playing $80 on the under in Denver. Oh, we're getting a movement in real time and I can't lock it in. To plus 103. All right, so we'll take a little bit slightly worse of a number, but these are all fine. By the way, that's betstamp in action right there. Verifying line moves. Line move descent. Got to relock it in. Okay. Cleveland starting DTR at quarterback again this week. He remains without both of his starting tackles, Jedrick Wills, Jack Conklin on IR. In the secondary, Cleveland's going to be without Denzel Ward, who hurt his shoulder last week. Ordinarily, a big blow. Against Denver, not so much because they don't push the field. It's everything underneath. Denver's fairly healthy with the exception of Kareem Jackson. He gets suspended again. Guy's a complete idiot, just tossing his body all over the place. He's going to miss the game. Got to watch Cleveland, Pittsburgh in full. DTR threw 43 passes last week. 39 of those were within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. This guy just does not throw downfield. whatever we saw in preseason, whatever the hype was that allowed them to cut other quarterbacks as their backups, including Josh Dobbs. I don't see it with DTR right now. As the game went on last week, Cleveland's offense just got more and more and more flaccid, basically. That was the Steelers' defense. This is the Broncos' defense, which is much improved lately. Now, a lot of the EPA they're generating is through turnovers, but overall, they have played a lot better as their defenses come into full health. I don't know. You never say never. It's the NFL. There's a lot of unpredictable things that happen. But with this tape now on DTR, I don't really see some huge paths to success for Cleveland here. On the other side of things, Denver's offense was just put on this earth to play unders. Everyone wants to anoint Russell Wilson as like, he's back. Here's what Russell Wilson is doing. He is basically an extension of their running game. So many of these passes are just quick screens, quick hitters to wide receivers for 4 or 5 yard plays. It's basically like running the football, but putting it through the air. They don't have much of a downfield offense. They're basically content at this point to play field position games. Don't turn it over, which is important for them, and they haven't. And that's where you can give Russell a lot of praise. But I like the matchup for both defenses here. Where I can see some success, and what scares me a little bit, is Wilson's mobility. He has been scrambling a little bit more in the latter half of the year. Cleveland plays a lot of man. Man coverage can get burned by quarterbacks who scramble. So we're going to occasionally see him pick up some third downs. But he's going to be under pressure a lot in this game. I like the under. I think this is too many points. Keeping it moving. Heading on to the Bills and the Eagles. Okay. One-way action on the Bills. +3 -114 at Pinnacle. Total 48. Best market price on the over would be here at Pinnacle. Rest of the market, 48.5, 49. I'm actually going to play this over for $80. Over 48 -116. You could also play the 48.5s out there, even the 49, but just stake down if you're going to do so. Adjust your bet size accordingly. Kind of nailed this one with Clive on Sunday last week, in that Buffalo would take a lot of money. And my number in the game, and I'm trying to make a conscious effort of doing this for every game so people know where I stand, is Philly in like a -3.25 range. Honestly, very close to playable at this price. Maybe even arguably playable at this price if I didn't like the over more. And a total of 50 in this game. But the expectation was that Buffalo would take money. I'm not convinced Buffalo is back. I'm convinced that they beat a Jets team that is dead. But I'm not convinced that they're back. They still have the usual suspects on IR. Trey White, Matt Milano, Daquan Jones, Dawson Knox. You can add cornerback Dane Jackson to the injured list. He's out with a concussion. Although the secondary looks, not that bad with Rasul Douglas there now after that trade. Taylor Rapp is dealing with a neck injury as well. Philly without Dallas Goedert. He's got the forearm injury. Milton Williams out on the defensive line. That's going to hurt them in the running game. What the Bills did last week was very conservative against the Jets because they knew that they could be. Josh Allen had 2 passes outside of the pocket last week. It's very clear they got rid of Ken Dorsey. They put an emphasis on don't turn the ball over, Josh. Just don't turn it over. The issue is, I think Philly is going to score rather easily in this game. It's not a great spot for the Eagles. I get it. There's a lot of situational people out there. Eagles basically just like they won the Super Bowl rematch. They put a lot of effort into beating the Kansas City Chiefs. This Bills defense is bad. They've been getting killed by pretty much anyone with a pulse. You look at teams that are actually like since the injuries, Bengals 55% success rate, Jags 56%. They faced a bunch of junk quarterbacks. A bunch this season. And their defensive metrics are still bad. They've had 2 times Zach Wilson. They've had Mac Jones, Jimmy Garoppolo, Sam Howell early in the season, Tyrod Taylor. Philly's going to move it. I think this forces Buffalo to open it up. I think that they have to get away from the offense that they had last week, which was like this safety first. And they'll have some advantages over the middle of the field. And in fact, the Eagles play a lot of defensive styles that Josh Allen has had a ton of success with this year. Philly has a top 7 rate of cover 1, which is like a man defense with a safety lurking over the middle of the field. And Allen has cooked that scheme the entirety of the year. And really over the middle of the field, the Eagles have been cooked this entire season. I think we're going to see a lot of points in this game. I think Buffalo is going to have to get out of this very conservative offense from a week ago. Okay. Eagles team total over 26.5 is minus 0.3 on Pinnacle. I like that. I'm mainly doing the large markets, ones where you can get 50K plus right now, side and total. It's more of like a test for myself to see if I think if those markets are beatable for me on a Sunday, which over the course of my career and my minus 4% ROI, they haven't been, but definitely I can see that. And Sergio brings up a great point here. 470 viewers and only 183 thumbs up. What's going on, people? What's going on? Last of the late games today, or games in the late window. Technically, there's a later game. KC and Las Vegas. The main market at Pinnacle is like a weird price, basically the equivalent of an 8.5. Total 43. One-way action towards the under. I am currently at KC minus 9 fair price with a total of 43.5. So leans to KC in the over. But there's a lot that's going to go into this game, and we still have no idea. We still have no idea if Max Crosby is going to play. Kind of important for the handicap, one way or another. Now, it was expected that he was going to be out. 3 times DNP, knee injury, officially listed as doubtful, but apparently going to try to give it a go. Aside from Crosby, keep an eye on left tackle Colton Miller. If he ends up returning today, 3 times limited practice this week, that would be a boost for them. KC's without some skill position players, Jerick McKinnon, Mecole Hardman, Kadarius Toney. Just replace all of those average players with other average players because that's the KC offense right now. Now, the challenge here, in particular with this game, is laying big numbers against the Raiders and how I generally believe this is a bad idea. They condense games. They play slow. They play field position. Bend but don't break. No explosive plays. The good news for Kansas City is like they don't have explosive plays anyways. So they're going to dink and dunk all their way down the field. Comes down to red zone. But the KC offense is struggling right now. Like it's not a narrative. They're struggling. Their last 5 games, you look at the defenses they've played, they've scored over 21 just once. Eagles, Dolphins, Broncos, Chargers, Broncos. Challenging. Las Vegas plays a lot of zone. Mahomes actually has a negative EPA per play against zone this season, which I almost fell off my chair when I looked at that. So you need KC to win by margin when they can't score. It's just, can the Raiders do anything offensively? Tough game overall. Tough game overall. Okay, we'll go to Sunday Night Football. Rob does need that content money, guys. Rob does. So make sure you smash that like button down below. Support the streams. Support the streams as we try to build something here at the Hammer. Tunes on Cincy plus 2.5. Like I said, my number in the game was 2. Think it kind of moved too far, but yeah, not so much. Las Vegas KC under. All right. Keeping it going. Final game. Ravens, Chargers. Holy geez, are there split opinions on this game? And I'm like somewhere in the middle. Ravens down to 3-point favorites. Open 4, 3.5 midweek, down to 3. Total's been bet up a lot. I believe it was 45.5 at one point. We're now up to 48.5, although that's heavily juiced towards the under. My number in the game is 3. My total in the game is 48. Again, I mentioned very differing opinions. Keep an eye on a bunch of Ravens players. Ronnie Stanley, DNP Friday. Could have just been a rest day. Got the knee injury. It was full practice Thursday. Odell Beckham, Zay Flowers, both nursing shoulder and hip injuries, respectively. Big deal because of old reliable Mark Andrews, now on IR. Marlon Humphrey, 3 times limited practice with a calf injury. It appears he's closer to doubtful than probable tonight. Ravens are beat up. Chargers likely getting Gerald Everett and Jalen Guyton back. That helps a very limited receiving core. Unfortunately, they had to place Joey Bosa on IR with a foot issue. I think the absence of Mark Andrews is very big. I've talked about this before. There's some players in the league that I think are considered great players, but still undervalued. George Kittle, Mark Andrews falls into that category for me. Mark Andrews is a massive red zone target for Lamar Jackson. He's had 71 red zone targets since 2018. That's more than double any other Baltimore player in that span. Now, granted, Baltimore's had a lot of turnover, but he does everything well. He's a complete player. And when 7s start turning into 3s, because you got to look elsewhere to worse players, that's important. Lamar's splits are actually pretty underwhelming this year in terms of EPA. I looked at the Chargers defense, who plays a lot of mixed coverages, it's hard to say, and tried to see if Lamar had a specific matchup advantage. Then I just realized, like, Lamar's numbers EPA-wise across the board are really not all that impressive. I also have concerns with the Ravens defense. Now, people are going to be like, you're nuts. We're 12 weeks into the season, or 11 weeks. We know the Ravens defense is great. But do we know the Ravens defense is great? What quarterbacks have the Ravens played? Like, if we break down the Ravens schedule one by one and go through it, probably the most impressive was CJ Stroud, week 1, on the road, first career start. Aside from that, they've gotten like every single break you could possibly get with quarterbacks along the way. This is the best quarterback that they're playing in a long, long time. It would have been Burrow a couple weeks ago, but of course he got hurt in that game as well, when they were moving the ball, by the way. Herbert played great last week. Team dropped 1 million balls. It's going to happen when you don't have a ton of wide receiving talent. But ultimately, I'm more likely to give the Chargers the benefit of the doubt if they got guys open that are dropping balls than the opposite way around. Herbert's been really good. Finger injury seems to be gone. So I completely understand the move. I think this is a fair price in the game. I honestly think this is by far the most likely outcome in the game, which is Ravens -3. And that's where we're at. Is Marlon Humphrey out this week? He is officially listed as questionable, but it's rumored that he is not expected to play in the game. Okay. Quick recap of what we have locked in so far. And I'll go through the board one more time really quickly. So play the over Jacksonville, Houston for $70, under Cleveland, Denver for $80, Buffalo, Philly over for $80. It's 3 totals today so far. One quick run through the board again. Give it a quick refresh before I sign off here and answer any more questions that you guys might have. Jacksonville, Houston, made my case for the over. I like the matchup for both offenses. Who's going to win the game? I really don't know. I think the price is fine. If you force me to pick, as Ken Barkley likes to say, water gun to my head, I'll take the Texans. Bucs and Colts, again, fair price in my opinion. Slight lean to the over here. Wish I was higher on the Colts, and I would really bet them. Like, I'd like a team to bet against Tampa with the defensive injuries. It's just the Colts aren't it for me. Patriots, Giants, one-way action to the Patriots. I think the Giants are really bad. At this point, I think the market has moved to where it should. Panthers, Titans, nothing in consideration for me here. Ugly game. Steelers and Bengals. I mean, full disclosure, I have Steelers at some pick'em prices. At this point, I think it's fine. I mean, if you're picking against 2.5, I probably would even pick the Bengals, honestly. Saints and Falcons, no strong opinion here. I guess slight lean towards the under in this game. Rams, Cardinals. I explained why the Rams went out to this price. It's a lot of Cardinals injuries. A good injury report for the Rams. Small lean over. Browns, Broncos, we locked in the under in this game. I guess tiny lean to the Broncos as well. Eagles and Bills. Lean Eagles. Played the over. Really big test for Buffalo today. I'm not sure that the Bills are back. I'm really not. KC, Las Vegas. Kind of complete pass all the way around, as is the Chargers and the Ravens. All right. I'll stick around. What do you think of under 30? Same thing. Fine. I like the 37 plus money. 37.5 minus 110 is fine. Giants team total for under 14.5. What's the VIG on that? I can tell you afterwards. No player props for me. For those that don't know, my wife's been away for a week. She's returning today. I was living the bachelor life for the past week and trying to get away from the computer screen as much and do things that I typically don't get the time to do. So I did not fire a bunch of props yesterday. Turkey. Listen. Turkey sucks. Zay Jones active. Yep, just makes me, it doesn't change the calculus. I had him in already, expected him to play, but I like that. Water gun to your head, Baltimore Chargers. At 3, Baltimore. At anything else, Chargers. Looks like Jalen Warren Day in the chat. I like Jalen Warren. He's pretty explosive. Great player overall. All right. I'm back here tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Tune in. If you're about getting down early and getting good prices on games and hearing like a first reaction breakdown, tune in. Could listen on Mondays as well, but a lot of times the line is moved by that. So it is what it is. But make sure you're subbed here on Forward Progress. Make sure you hit that bell notification to get alerted when we go live here in the future as well. If you haven't smashed that like button, make sure you do so on the way out the door, as it goes a long way in supporting us here on Forward Progress. For everyone out there, unless you're opposite me, I wish you luck on all of your bets today. Hopefully everyone has a good week 12 in the NFL. Of course, as always, please play responsibly. It's an hour till kick. If you're putting in bets right now, it's very unlikely that you have an edge. So just make sure you're betting within your limits and nothing that's going to cause you to go over the top today. I'm back tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time. I'll see everyone then. This has been the Pizza Buffet on Forward Progress, presented by Pinnacle Sportsbook. Good luck with your bets, everyone. Peace out.